I still remember the exact moment my life changed forever. It was a crisp March morning when I opened my laptop and saw those magical words, "Congratulations, you have been accepted to Stanford University." My heart practically exploded with joy. 4 years of perfect grades, countless hours studying, working part-time jobs to save for application fees. It had all paid off. But as I rushed downstairs to share the incredible news with my family, I was met with an eerie silence that should have been my first warning sign. Little did I know this acceptance letter would unleash a nightmare I never saw coming from the people who were supposed to love me most. Before I dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because what happens next will show you just how far some parents will go to sabotage their own child's future. Trust me, you will not believe the lengths my family went to destroy my dreams. Growing up as twins in Denver, Colorado, Madison, and I looked identical on the outside, but our parents treated us like we were from different planets. Madison was the golden child from day one. Our house on Maple Street told the whole story. Her room was decorated with expensive furniture. Mine had hand-me-down everything. She got private tutoring, piano lessons, and dance classes. I got a library card and told to figure it out myself. Our father, Robert, worked as an aerospace engineer, and our mother, Patricia, taught third grade at the local elementary school. They were respected in the community, the kind of parents who showed up to every school event with matching sweaters and proud smiles. But those smiles were always directed at Madison. When neighbors asked about their daughters, they would spend 20 minutes bragging about Madison's latest achievement and mention me as an afterthought. Madison never had to work for anything. When she struggled in calculus, Dad hired the best tutor in town. When she wanted to join the debate team, Mom rearranged her work schedule to drive her to every tournament. Meanwhile, I took a job shelving books at the public library after school to save money for college applications. While Madison was getting professional headshots taken for her student council campaign, I was writing scholarship essays by myself in the back corner of that same library. The difference became crystal clear during our senior year when college applications opened. Madison confidently applied to Stanford, Harvard, UCLA, and Northwestern. She had a decent grade point average, but nothing spectacular. What she did have was an impressive list of extracurricular activities that our parents had funded and supported every step of the way. Violin competitions in different states, leadership camps during summers, volunteer trips to Costa Rica, all paid for by Mom and Dad. I applied to the same schools, but I kept it secret. I knew if our parents found out, they would find ways to sabotage my chances to help Madison. I worked extra shifts at the library to pay those application fees myself. Every night after Madison went to sleep, I would sneak downstairs and work on my personal statements on our family computer. I wrote about overcoming adversity, about learning independence, about finding my own path. I poured my heart into those essays because they represented my only shot at freedom. The day rejection letters started arriving was brutal. Madison opened her Stanford rejection on a Tuesday afternoon and collapsed into hysterical sobs on the kitchen floor. Mom immediately started making phone calls, complaining to anyone who would listen about how the admissions process was rigged against deserving students like Madison. Dad spent the evening researching appeal processes and writing angry emails to the university. That same night, alone in my bedroom, I opened my email and found an acceptance letter from Stanford. My hands shook as I read it 3 times to make sure it was real. But instead of celebrating, I felt terrified. I knew what this acceptance would mean for my family dynamic. I was right to be scared. When I finally worked up the courage to tell them, the next morning Madison threw her cereal bowl across the kitchen and ran upstairs, slamming her bedroom door so hard it rattled the windows. Mom looked at me like I had personally murdered her favorite child. Dad set down his coffee mug and said the words that still haunt me. "Well, this complicates things, does it not?" From that moment on, I became the villain in my own home. Madison stayed in her room for 3 days straight, only coming out to grab food and shoot me venomous looks. Our parents tiptoed around her like she was made of glass while treating me like I was radioactive. When Madison's friends came over to comfort her, I had to hide in the basement so she would not have to see me. The message was clear. My success was Madison's failure, and I should be ashamed of myself. The manipulation started subtly. During dinner one evening, Dad casually mentioned how Stanford was probably too challenging for someone my age. Maybe you should consider taking a gap year, he suggested while cutting his steak. Give yourself time to mature before jumping into such a demanding environment. Mom joined the campaign the next day, suggesting I should transfer to the University of Colorado, Denver instead. You could live at home and save money, she said sweetly. Plus, we could still be a family. When I reminded her that I had dreamed of Stanford since middle school, she sighed dramatically and said, "Dreams change, honey. Family is forever." Madison played her part perfectly. She started having mysterious health issues that seemed to flare up whenever Stanford was mentioned. Headaches, stomach problems, sudden dizzy spells that required emergency room visits. The doctors could never find anything wrong, but somehow it was always my fault. The stress of her sister's situation is making Madison sick. Mom would tell relatives who called to check on us. Within 2 weeks, my extended family had been mobilized into a full-scale guilt campaign. Aunt Alice called me crying, saying I was tearing the family apart with my selfishness. My grandparents drove over from Colorado Springs to have a heart-to-heart about how family loyalty should come before personal ambition. Even our family pastor somehow got involved, giving me a lecture about humility and putting others before yourself. The financial pressure started next. Dad announced that college funds were being reevaluated and that I should not count on any family support for tuition. Mom stopped buying groceries I liked and made comments about how expensive everything was getting. They canceled our family phone plan and said I would need to get my own if I wanted to keep my number. Every small expense became a negotiation, a reminder that I was now on my own. Madison's drama reached new heights when she fainted at school and had to be rushed to the hospital in an ambulance. The doctors ran every test imaginable, but found absolutely nothing wrong. However, Madison tearfully told the psychiatrist that her anxiety was caused by feeling inferior to her twin sister who got everything good in life. The doctor recommended family therapy, which became another venue for everyone to explain how my success was traumatizing poor Madison. I started questioning everything. Was I being selfish? Was my dream really worth destroying my family? I spent hours sitting in my car in empty parking lots, staring at Stanford's admissions phone number and wondering if I should just defer for a year. My best friend Emma was the only person who kept me sane during those dark weeks. "Your parents are insane," she would remind me. "Do not let them steal your future." But the pressure was relentless. Every conversation somehow circled back to how much happier everyone would be if I just made this small sacrifice for Madison. Dad would show me articles about successful people who took gap years. Mom would leave brochures for Colorado colleges on my pillow. Madison would have convenient crying fits whenever I was around, complete with dramatic declarations about how she just cannot handle seeing her sister succeed while she fails. The final straw came during what they called a family meeting in our living room. Both parents sat across from me with Madison sobbing between them. Dad delivered an ultimatum that still makes my blood boil. Either you defer Stanford for a year to let Madison reapply, or you are on your own financially and emotionally. We cannot support a daughter who puts her own interest above her family. Mom added her own poison. We raised you girls equally and gave you the same opportunities. The least you can do is give Madison this chance to catch up. Madison looked up from her tissues long enough to nod pathetically and whimper about how unfair life was. I felt like I was drowning. These people had raised me, fed me, and housed me for 18 years. How could I just walk away from them? But deep down, I knew what they were asking was wrong. They wanted me to sacrifice my entire future so Madison could feel better about herself. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, knowing I had to make the hardest decision of my life. 3 weeks later, everything exploded in the most devastating way possible. I was walking past my parents' bedroom when I heard Dad on the phone with someone from Stanford. My blood turned to ice as I pressed my ear against the door and listened to him impersonating me, asking about withdrawal procedures and medical deferments. "Yes, this is Camila Rodriguez," I heard him say in a fake high voice. "I am calling to inquire about withdrawing my acceptance due to family circumstances." The person on the other end must have asked for verification because Dad started rattling off my social security number and birth date. I almost threw up right there in the hallway. Later that day, I snuck into Mom's home office and found printed emails between her and various Stanford administrative offices. She had been researching medical withdrawal policies, family emergency procedures, and something called involuntary leave policies for students with mental health issues. There were draft letters claiming I was suffering from severe anxiety and depression that made me unable to handle college-level stress. The most horrifying discovery was a folder labeled Madison's Second Chance, filled with new application materials for Stanford's spring admission cycle. They had been planning this for weeks, maybe months. While I thought they were just pressuring me to defer, they were actively working to steal my spot and give it to Madison. Madison knew everything. I confronted her that afternoon when our parents were at work, and she barely tried to deny it. "It should have been me anyway," she said while filing her nails. "You know I'm the one with real potential. You are just good at memorizing textbooks." When I asked how she could watch them destroy my life, she shrugged. "Someone has to make sacrifices for family. Why should not it be you?" The next morning, I woke up to an email from Stanford confirming my withdrawal from the university. I had never sent any withdrawal request. I had never spoken to anyone in their admissions office, but somehow, according to their records, I had officially withdrawn my acceptance due to personal medical circumstances that prevent enrollment. I printed that email and marched downstairs where my parents were calmly eating breakfast, like they had not just destroyed my future overnight. "How could you do this to me?" I screamed, waving the paper in their faces. "You committed fraud. You stole my identity. You ruined everything I worked for." Dad did not even look up from his newspaper. "We did what was necessary to protect this family," he said calmly. "Madison needs that opportunity more than you do. You will understand when you are older." Mom tried to hug me, speaking in her kindergarten teacher voice. "Sweetie, we know you are upset right now, but this is for the best. You can apply again next year after Madison gets settled. We cannot have one daughter succeeding while the other one suffers." Madison appeared in the kitchen doorway, no longer bothering to hide her satisfaction. "Maybe now you will learn that you cannot always get everything you want," she said smugly. "Some of us have been waiting our whole lives for a real chance." That was the moment I realized my family was willing to commit actual crimes to help Madison. They had forged my signature, impersonated me to university officials, and filed false medical claims, all so their precious golden child could have my spot at Stanford. I was done being their victim. I grabbed my phone and called Stanford's admissions office right there in front of all of them. "This is Camila Rodriguez," I said clearly. "I need to report that my withdrawal was fraudulent and filed without my knowledge or consent." What happened next changed everything. The Stanford admissions officer, Dr. Anderson, took my call seriously and launched an immediate investigation. I provided voice recordings of my parents' phone calls that I had secretly made handwriting samples proving the forged signatures and documentation of the medical claims they had filed without my knowledge. Within 48 hours, Stanford had reversed the fraudulent withdrawal and reinstated my acceptance. Dr. Anderson even offered me additional scholarship funding after learning about my family situation. "We have never seen anything quite like this," she told me during our phone conference. "Your determination to pursue your education despite these obstacles is exactly the kind of character we value at Stanford." But the real battle was just beginning. I packed my belongings that same night and moved in temporarily with Emma's family. Her parents, Susan and Mark, welcomed me with open arms and treated me like their own daughter. No child should have to fight their own family for the right to succeed, Susan told me while making up the guest bed. You are safe here as long as you need. I filed a police report for identity theft and fraud. The officer who took my statement, Detective Williams, was shocked by the evidence I presented. In 20 years of law enforcement, I have never seen parents sabotage their own child like this, he said while reviewing the forged documents. This is a clear case of identity theft with intent to defraud an educational institution. My parents tried everything to avoid consequences. Dad called me dozens of times, alternating between rage and fake apologies. You are destroying this family over a stupid school, he yelled during one voicemail. Madison is having a complete breakdown because of your selfishness. Mom sent text messages claiming they were just trying to help and that I was overreacting to a misunderstanding. Madison's reaction was the most telling. When she realized I was serious about pressing charges, she finally admitted the truth during a screaming match over the phone. Fine, we did it, but you do not deserve Stanford more than I do. You are not special just because you got better grades. Her mask had completely fallen off. The legal process moved quickly. My parents were charged with identity theft, fraud, and forgery. They hired an expensive lawyer and tried to claim it was all a family misunderstanding, but the evidence was overwhelming. The case never went to trial because their lawyer advised them to accept a plea deal rather than face serious jail time. Meanwhile, I worked 3 part-time jobs to support myself while finishing senior year. I waited tables at a local diner, tutored middle school kids in math, and did data entry work for a small business downtown. Every dollar I earned went toward college expenses that my parents had promised to cover before betraying me. Emma's family attended my high school graduation since my own family was no longer welcome in my life. When I walked across that stage as valedictorian, I heard Susan and Mark cheering louder than any parents in the audience. Madison was there somewhere, but she avoided eye contact. My parents did not show up at all. Starting at Stanford that fall was both terrifying and liberating. I had never been completely independent before, but I thrived in an environment where hard work was rewarded instead of punished. My professors became mentors, my classmates became genuine friends, and I discovered what it felt like to be valued for my actual abilities, instead of constantly compared to Madison. By junior year, I had landed a prestigious internship at a Silicon Valley tech company. My supervisor was so impressed with my work that they offered me a full-time position before I even graduated. The 6-figure starting salary was more money than my parents had ever made combined, and I had earned every penny through my own merit. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in computer science and a job offer that most people can only dream of. Emma's parents were in the audience cheering again, along with my favorite professors and new friends who had become my chosen family. My biological family was notably absent from this milestone, too. Madison did eventually get into a decent state school, though she dropped out after 2 semesters when she realized college actually required effort. She moved back home with our parents, where they continued to enable her failures and blame everyone else for her problems. My parents made a few pathetic attempts at reconciliation over the years, usually around holidays or major life events. They never acknowledged what they did wrong or apologized for destroying my trust. Instead, they would send cards saying they missed the old Camilla and hoped I would come to my senses about family loyalty. I learned that real family is not about blood relations or shared DNA. It is about people who support your dreams, celebrate your successes, and stand by you during difficult times. Emma's parents showed me more love and encouragement in 6 months than my biological family had in 18 years. The most important lesson from this nightmare is that you cannot let anyone, even family members, sabotage your future because of their own insecurities and failures. When people try to dim your light so others can shine brighter, You have to protect yourself and keep moving forward. Success is not a zero-sum game where one person winning means another person has to lose. I also discovered that forgiveness does not mean accepting toxic behavior or pretending terrible things never happened. You can forgive people for your own peace of mind while still maintaining boundaries that protect you from future harm. Some bridges are meant to be burned when the people on the other side keep trying to destroy you. Today, I live in San Francisco with a career I love and friends who genuinely care about my well-being. I have built the life I dreamed of despite every obstacle my family threw in my way. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had given in to their demands and deferred Stanford for Madison. I probably would have spent years sacrificing my dreams for someone who never appreciated or deserved those sacrifices. The saddest part is that Madison could have found her own path to success if our parents had taught her to work hard instead of expecting everything to be handed to her. By constantly comparing us and playing favorites, they created a toxic dynamic that ultimately destroyed our family. Madison never learned to handle failure or develop genuine confidence because she was always told she deserved success without earning it. But I refuse to waste any more energy feeling sorry for people who made their own choices. I chose to fight for my dreams despite overwhelming opposition. They chose to commit crimes rather than accept that I had earned something Madison had not. We are all living with the consequences of those choices now. Sometimes the people who should love you the most are the ones who fear your success the most. When that happens, you have to love yourself enough to walk away and build something better. What would you have done in my situation? Have you ever had family members try to sabotage your success? Share your thoughts in the comments below and please hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Do not forget to subscribe for more stories about overcoming family drama and toxic relationships. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that their dreams matter more than other people's jealousy. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember that your future is worth fighting for no matter who tries to stand in your way. Keep chasing your goals and never let anyone dim your shine.